Hello, and let's have a chat about the English season, the RFU, the Viva Premiership, Gallagher Premiership, or Premiership Rugby, I guess I should call them, and the Rugby Players Association have managed to sit down and thrash out how the how the next 3 seasons are going to pan out. Now, obviously, they've come out and gone, oh, it's all good for player welfare and we're making the world a better place. But as is generally the situation with these things, is you need to have a look at the detail to see whether those sort of claims are really true or not. So let's have a little sort of drill down, have a little chat and have a look at it and all that kind of stuff. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. So yeah, do subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my opinion pieces and kind of news flashy sort of stuff like I guess this really is. So the big thing is that the RFU, the Premiership Rugby and the Rugby Players Association have managed to, on the whole, sit down around a table and come to a nice agreement without falling out with each other. The players did have to throw their toys out the pram initially to sort of get things moving on this, because remember, Premiership Rugby did come out and say, hey, fantastic, they're going to move the international window from June to July. So, you know, we can have an extra month's worth of rugby. And Billy Vanapola and much as I said, no thanks, we're going to go on strike if you do that. So I guess the key thing here is actually point 4 out of their key announcements. So I'm going to not necessarily go through in the order they've given them. But first off is a minimum 12 weeks between the Premiership Rugby final and round 1 of the following season. So 12 weeks, that's 3 lots of 4, so that's approximately 3 months, right? Basically, yes. So currently, if we look at last season finished on the 26th of May with the, gone blank, with the final. And then they kicked off effectively on the 1st of September. Then there was one game, the day before. That's on the last day of August. So that's effectively, so they basically had June, July, and August between them. Now, so that was a gap of, by my counting, was 13 weeks. So this will allow this will mean that that gap could shrink by a week, but from memory, actually, they probably play the European Rugby Champions Cup final after that would have been. So, a question of does that count as the final game or not? So at the moment, yes. So they could definitely. So it looks like they could shrink the gap by about a week as to compare to what it was last season. But it's not going to be a whole month shorter as was initially suggested, as I say, by some of the people in Premiership Rugby. So that is a good sign. Let's run through the other ones that are in here then. So first off, there's a guaranteed in-season breaks for players in each of the 3 seasons. Now, players effectively have in-season breaks anyway, to be honest with you, because when you have the what used to be the Anglo-Welsh Cup and is now some Premiership blah, 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 whatever it is, the first team players get a break then anyway. So, yes, it's good that it's guaranteed and documented now, but I'm not sure how much difference that will actually make compared to what really happens nowadays. Mandatory 5-week post-season rest for all players, which includes 2 weeks absolute rest and 3 weeks of active rest. And I think that's what we have now anyway. So it sort of came in last summer, that 5 weeks gap. So pretty much the same there, which is good. Minimum of 10 weeks off pre-season for England senior elite player squads. Players 5 weeks rest and 5 weeks preparation. So what's that going to look like? That's basically going to mean that they're probably going to miss the beginning of the season, because if you think that the international window is now going to be in July, then that means we're going to that means you're going to have August, September, and maybe even part of October off before that 10 weeks is up. So looks like they're going to basically the elite Premiership, the England players are probably going to miss the beginning of the season. A minimum of 12 weeks, which mentioned that one. A maximum of 35 match involvements greater than 20 minutes in any one season for all players. That's good in some ways. A maximum of 30 full game equivalents, reduced from 32 in any one season for all players. Now, that is still way too many. Okay, it is down, which is good. But if you think that when I was chatting the other night, we looked at some of the players such as Rich McCaw, and we had a couple of other players we looked at. And effectively those players were averaging about 10 Super Rugby games and 10 international games a season. So about 20 games. And here we are talking about 30 full game equivalents and a maximum of 35 actual games where you spend more than 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's still way more than you're going to see the top New Zealand players playing, and it's still probably more than players should be playing, to be honest. Premiership Rugby Cup structure to provide rest weeks for players with the most match time. Okay, whatever the details of that is, not very entirely clear. England senior elite playing squad players to have a mandatory rest week if playing all international matches and more than 65% of total minutes, reduced from 80 in the November international or the end of year internationals or the Six Nations. So again, that makes sense, having a week off after the Six Nations or a week off after the end of year or the November tests. So that's good. And again, it sounds like that was already in place. It's just the amount of minutes that triggers that has come down. So generally, yeah, look, things are moving in the right direction, but I think what the thing is, there is a lot more to go. A couple of things in addition to this. England Rugby World Cup squad were rested for the summer tests in 2020, unless they've played less than 20 matches during the season. So that's good, rather than sending them off on another tour. England players on the British and Irish Lions tour have a rest week during the 2021 autumn internationals. So yeah, they'll have that 10 weeks when they come back, and also have a rest week during there, which is good. It's all steps in the right direction. Lions have that 10-week break, which we just mentioned, and then the tripartite panel will monitor and make sure there are compliance with that. So that's kind of cool. One thing that they did say in this that was kind of interesting, and I've gone and lost where it's where it said that then. So here we go. Reading from the RFU website, starting with the 2019 to 2020 season, the improved season structures will see a number of extra player welfare-driven initiatives and a reduced number of international/club overlaps for the top-level professional game in England. Now, if you're just adding an extra week into the season, I'm not sure how they are reducing the number of overlaps in particular. Secondly, if we look at what's being talked about for 2020 in the international calendar, there's talk of this new 12-team competition that's going to have supposedly semi-finals and final playoffs. And at the moment, there isn't enough games or windows to fit that all in. So where are those games going to come in? How is that overlap going to happen? So whilst we're getting these announcements of different things, they're not all quite marrying up. I'm not sure how they're going to see this reduced overlap business, but we'll have to wait and see how that all, if that's just a bit of PR rather than anything actually coming of it. So yeah, steps in the right direction. Congratulations, the RFU, Premiership Rugby, and the Rugby Players Association. Number two, congratulations that you've actually done it without falling out and squabbling in the press. This working together in the English rugby is a step in the right direction. It's good to see that we're not having things getting thrown out or things thrown out the pram. When we marry that up with the fact that that things look to be working a lot better in Wales as well. And you've got to say that, yeah, generally rugby is, and also in France, there seems to be a bit more cooperation between clubs and country. It does seem that that slowly but surely rugby is moving in the right direction in its professionalism and actually being out and the various parties actually working together rather than squabbling. So there we go. Those sort of things are all good. So thank you very much for watching. Hope that was informative. Let me know your thoughts about this new season down below. Have I missed something key that makes what I've been saying all wrong? I don't know. As I say, it seems to be heading in the right direction. It doesn't quite add up to all of the PR that I think is being suggested, though. Anyway, do subscribe there to get so you don't miss out on any of my other pieces. Over there, a couple of other movies. Dear me, no, not movies, videos that I'm sure you'll be interested in.